Welcome to another video from McFatter Tech Musser. If you like these videos, please click subscribe. 70-741 Lab 9, implementing virtual private networking, that's VPNs, and direct access solutions. If you enjoy this lab that deals with routing and remote access services, please be sure to view my Lab 8, which deals with RRAS from the perspective of implementing NAT and also implementing LAN routing. You may also be interested in viewing my Implementing NAT and LAN Routing with Multiple Subnets video. It implements both, doing NAT and LAN routing all from the same router. So in this lab today, we're going to be looking at configuring a VPN server. We'll be looking at configuring a VPN client, how we go about deploying direct access, the concept of configuring split tunneling, and then finally using the CMAK, that's the Connection Manager Administration Kit. We'll be working with a number of our different servers today, including SVR1, SVR2. We're going to begin on our NA-RTR router, and we'll also be including our CL1 Windows 10 client machine. So let's begin with our first exercise, which is configuring a VPN server. In this exercise, we're going to use routing and remote access to implement a VPN server. Virtual private networks, that's VPNs. They link two computers or network devices through a WAN, a wide area network, such as the internet. Because the internet is a public network and is considered insecure, the data sent between two computers or devices needs to be encapsulated and encrypted to maintain its security. So first off, we are logged into our NA-RTR router. We're logged in as our server administrator. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Network Connections. From the Network Connections, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump over to the Network and Sharing Center. We'll go to our Change Adapter settings where we can see our various connections. And we're going to go to the WHO-WAN and we're going to right-click and disable that. We're going to right-click our London network and we're going to go to Properties. In Properties, we're going to select IPv4 and we want to assign a static IP address to that. And the static IP address we're going to use is 172.16.0.250. This will be also with a Class C subnet mask instead of the default Class B. And we'll give it a gateway address. Not really necessary, but we will. And I'm going to also go ahead and throw in our DNS server address. This is a router, it doesn't really need that, but we will anyhow. We'll click OK, and we're going to click OK. And now we're going to right-click on the NA-WAN and also go to Properties. And we'll open up that IPv4 settings. And you can see that I've already configured it to use the 172.17.0 network. And it's got an address of .250. So we're going to go ahead, we'll close that. Now, looking at our status of our various connections on our router, let's answer our first question. There's two subnets shown here, the NA-WAN and the WHO-WAN. In their current state, are they routable? Short answer, no. First off, the WHO-WAN is disabled. So, no. Very simple question. It's a matter of observation. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to close that network connections. We'll close the Network and Sharing Center and we'll close our settings. We're going to go to Tools and then we're going to go down to Routing and Remote Access. And as you can see, we've got this routing and remote access configuration configured to do NAT. We're going to right-click and we're going to disable that. We're going to right-click on your server name and select Disable. We're going to say, yes, we do want to disable the configuration because we're going to re-enable this to do both NAT and VPNs. It's going to take just a few moments for that configuration to get pulled out of there, and it should happen here in just a second. There we are. So what we're going to do now is we're going to right click on our server name again and say configure and enable routing and remote access. We'll click next, and we're going to select virtual private network VPN access and NAT. We're going to go ahead, we'll click next. Now, VPN connection. What connection are we going to have to enable VPN clients to connect to this server? At least one network interface must be connected, right? So we're going to select our London network. And so this is what's going to listen for our VPN connections. We're going to click next. And now we're going to say, hey, what network are the remote VPN clients going to come from? We're going to select the NA WAN. So clients that are on the 172.17.0 network, that's where our clients are going to be assigned. We're going to click next. And on the IP address assignment, we're going to say from a specific range of addresses. This is how we're going to assign IP addresses. We're going to click next. We're going to click new. And we're going to assign a fairly small range of addresses. We're going to begin with 0.240, and we'll end up at 172.17.0.249. We'll have a batch of 10 addresses that we can hand out. We'll click OK, and now we're going to go ahead, we're going to click next to accept those settings. Back on our network assignment, we can go ahead and we're going to click next. On our name and address translation services, we're going to simply enable basic name and address services is already selected. We'll click next. And then on our address assignment range, we can see what we're going to be doing. We'll be providing an address, our network, our subnet mask. We're going to click next. And now on the managing multiple remote access servers, we're going to simply say, no, we're going to use routing and remote access to authenticate the connections. We don't have a radius server set up in our scenario. We're going to click next. And finally, we can see that we've got our settings. Here you can review all those settings that we're going to be configuring. I'd like my students to take a screenshot and paste this into step number 30 in our first exercise. Okay, we're going to click finish. And it says to support the relaying of DHCP messages from remote access clients, you must configure the properties of the DHCP relay agent with the IP address of your DHCP server. Well, we've told it that we're going to assign certain addresses. So we're just going to simply click OK. We're not going to install the DHCP relay agent. But understand, that's how you allow clients to get IP information if you want to have their addresses dynamically assigned. We'll go ahead and we'll click OK. Take just a few moments for it to start. And there we are. Now, if we expand IPv4, we can see we've got our NAT, but we've also got these port configurations. We've also got network access clients, remote access logging. A little bit different view from when we just had NAT configured. We're going to right click on our server name and go to properties, and we're going to answer our second question. We'll select the security tab. Our second question is, which tab is, well, we just did it. Which tab is used to configure a pre-shared key for RRAS? Well, take a look here. What are the options here on the security tab? Right here. See this? Allow custom IPsec policy. If I select that, I can define a pre-shared key. I'm going to deselect that again. We're not going to do that. But the security tab is where you would go to do that. So your answer for question number 2 is security. Let's answer our third question. Which VPN method requires a digital certificate to provide an SSL connection? Well, take a look at the bottom option on that security tab. SSL certificate binding. right here. If we want to require a digital certificate, we use Secure Socket Tunneling Protocol. The answer for question 3 is SSTP, Secure Socket Tunneling Protocol. That's the VPN method. We'll go ahead and we're going to click Cancel. And what we're going to do now is we're going to right click on Ports and we're going to go to Properties. In this Properties dialog box, we're going to answer our 4th question, and that is, by default, how many IKE version 2 connections are available? Well, your answer is right in front of you. Yep, 5. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll click OK. And on our NARTR, I'm going to go up to Server Manager, I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to go to Computer Management. What we're going to do is we're going to expand the local users and groups, and I'm going to select users. I'm going to take a look and see whether this setting's in here yet or not. I'm going to double click the administrator account and select the dial-in tab. I've already made this change. The default setting is control access through NPS network policy for network access permission. So with that in mind, answer question number 5. What is the default setting for network access permission? Control access through NPS network policy. For our lab here, I'm going to select Allow Access, and I'm going to click OK. Before I do that, I would like my students to all take a screenshot and paste this into step number 42. All right, we're going to apply that, and I'm going to click OK. Now, we can go ahead and we can close our computer management, and we're going to move on to our second exercise. And our second exercise, we are going to be configuring a VPN client. We're going to work with SVR1 to do that. And to configure a VPN client, we've got our server configured, but if we don't have a client to connect to that VPN server, what's the point? So in this exercise, we're going to use lun-svr1 to act as a VPN client. Understand that in Windows Server 2016, there's several ways to create a VPN connection. They include the Network and Sharing Center, Set Up a Connection, or Network Wizard, Windows Server 2016 Settings, as well as the CMAK Connection Manager Administration Kit. I've already logged into our SVR1, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply click Start, and I'm going to type Control, and I'm going to go to Control Panel. In Control Panel, we're going to select View Network Status and Tasks. And in there, I'm going to say Set up a new connection or network. We'll be using the Connect to a Workplace. And I'm going to click Next. And in this dialog box, we're going to select Use My Internet Connection. So now we've got a prompt here. Do you want to set up an internet connection before continuing? We're going to select I'll set up an internet connection later. On this dialog box, we're going to type in the address of our server that we defined, and that's 172.16.0.250. We're going to click Create. Now, this is where our instructions in our workbook are a little bit different. We want to be able to access our VPN connection. So what we're going to simply do is left click on our network connection, and we're going to select a VPN connection. When our dialog box is highlighted, we'll click Connect. And we need to define what we want, how we want to connect. We need to provide a username and password. Well, we're going to use the NARTR administrator account. So we need to say NA-RTR. Remember, that was the one that we said we were going to allow access by. And then we're going to type in administrator. So we're using the local NARTR administrator account and its password. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click OK. We see our dialog over connecting. And we have connected. Took a few moments. Had to think there for a few seconds. Wasn't sure whether it was going to connect, but we've established our connection. I'd like my students to go ahead and take a screenshot showing the VPN connection connected. Paste that into step number 12. Let's go ahead. We're going to click the start button and we're going to type CMD. We're going to enter a command prompt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type ipconfig to see my IP configuration. And we're going to answer our sixth question. What IP address was assigned to the VPN connection? Well, depending on when we're doing this, we might get an address from anywhere from 240 to 249. You can see the static IP address that's been assigned to the Ethernet adapter London network. But look at the PPP adapter VPN connection. The IP address that's been assigned to my adapter is 172.17.0.241. Go ahead and put that into your answer for question number 6. I'm going to go ahead and close our command prompt, and I'm going to go back down. I'm going to click on my network connection icon again. I'm going to select that VPN connection and I'm going to disconnect. We're back to our normal network and we'll jump back over to our NARTR. We'll go back to our tools and computer management. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into that administrator account. We're going to go to the dial-in tab, and in our dial-in tab on that network access permission, I'm going to say control access through NPS network policy, and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to return back over to our LUN SVR1. I'm going to select that VPN connection once more and click connect. Immediately I'm presented with a message. Go ahead and answer question 7 with the message that's in that box right now. The remote connection was denied, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, don't type in blah, 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 but go ahead, pause the video so that you can type in that full answer into question number 7. I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my NARTR. We'll go into our administrator account, back into dial-in. I'm going to select allow access once more, and I'm going to click OK. And what I'd like everyone to do now is answer question number 8. We talked about this at the beginning. One of the ways that we can create connections, client connections, besides using the built-in networking tools like we just used in Windows, what can be used to create an executable that will automatically create a VPN client to connect to a particular server or address? Now you should know this from reading your lesson 9. I've also stated it twice in the beginning and then subsequently as we were going through describing the different ways that we could set up our client connections. It's the CMAK, the Connection Manager Administration Kit. This allows you to create an executable that you can distribute. So this is the end of creating the VPN client section. Now let's move on to our third exercise, which is deploying DirectAccess. In this exercise, we're going to deploy DirectAccess to LUN-SVR2 with LUN-DC1 ping for the NCA. DirectAccess is a feature that was introduced with Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 R2 that provides seamless intranet connectivity to DirectAccess client computers when they're connected to the internet. Different from traditional virtual private network connections, DirectAccess connections are automatically established and they provide always-on seamless connectivity. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to access our DC1. I've not logged into this yet, but we are right now. We'll go ahead and we're going to put in our credentials. And since we're also going to be using our SVR2, I'm going to go ahead and get that up and logged in as well, just to eliminate having to do that later. Jump back over to DC1. Now, on our DC1, we're going to go to Tools, we're going to go to DNS. What we're going to do is we're going to expand our reverse lookup zones. I've already created my 172.16.0 reverse lookup zone, but if that was not there, you would want to be able to have a reverse lookup zone. If you've not done this before, what you do is you right click on the where it says reverse lookup zone and you select new zone. And on the wizard screen, you'd click next. You'd say yes, it's a primary zone if it's hosted in your Active Directory here. We say next. It's going to go to all your domain controllers in that domain. We click next. It would be an IP. Here's where you would select either IPv4 or IPv6. In this case, it is IPv4. We go next. And here you put in the network portion of your addressing. So in our case, it's 172.16.0. You would click next and finish. Well, I've already done this, but that's the steps to create a reverse lookup zone. So that gives you not only to be able to look up by a name and resolve to an IP address, but be able to take an IP address and resolve to a name. Well, I'm going to click cancel since I've already done this. We're going to expand the forward lookup zones, and I'm going to select a datum. We're going to right click in our open area here, and we're going to say new host, and we're going to create a new A record. That new A record is going to be NLS. And for the IP address of that, we're going to use 172.16.0.12. And I'm going to say create an associated pointer record. That's what gives you that automatic creation of the reverse lookup record. That pointer, that PTR. You'll notice that here we have A records. In the reverse lookup zone, you have PTR records. We'll click Add Host. Was successfully created. We're going to click OK, and then we're going to click Done. That's all we need to do right here in our DNS. Now I'm going to jump over to the SVR2. On our SVR2, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click on the Start button and select Run. And we're going to open up a Microsoft Management Console. I'm going to do MMC and press Enter. We're going to say yes. And this is our base MMC. There's nothing in it yet. We're going to go File, Add Remove Snap-in. We're going to select Certificates. We're going to select Add. And we're going to say for our computer account and click Next and Finish. We'll then click OK. And we can expand our local computer certificates. We'll expand the personal node. There's nothing there yet. We're going to go ahead and we're going to right click on personal and say all tasks, request new certificate. We'll click next, next, and obviously you need to have a certification authority set up, which I do on my DC1. We're going to select a web server certificate, and you can see it's right here, but before selecting it we need to provide some additional information. So we're going to click on that little prompt right there. For the subject name, we're going to change that from full distinguished name to common name, and for that common name we're going to type in the name of the server, and that's lun-svr2.adatum.com. And then we'll go ahead and we'll click Add. That's all we need to do there, and we'll click OK. Now we can put a check mark beside our Datum Web Server Certificate, and we can click Enroll. It should take just a few moments for it to pull the DC1 over here and make that certificate request. And we have gotten our certificate. If we take a look in details here, we can see that we do have a certificate in it. We can see its validity period. It's used as a digital certificate. We can view the certificate. Here it is. We'll click Finish. And now we're going to go ahead, I'm going to ask my students to go ahead and take a screenshot and paste that into step number 36. Okay, so we're moving along. I'm going to go ahead and on my SVR2, I'm going to select Manage, Add Roles and Features. Remember, we're doing direct access. We're going to click Next, Next, and Next. And on the Roles page, we're going to select Remote Access. We're going to click Next. We're going to click Next. We're going to click Next. And we're going to select Direct Access. We'll add the Remote Server Administration Tools. And that's all we're going to select here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. We'll click Next, Next, and Install. As usual, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while the installation completes. I'll be back in a second. Okay, that second has passed and we have completed our feature. In fact, it's interesting, it says feature installation, but we installed a role. So nothing's always perfect. So my students should all go and take a screenshot right now and paste that into step number 48. We're going to go ahead, we're going to click Close. And on our SVR2, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to come down here to Remote Access Management. We'll click on that. And now this is our setup for managing our direct access. We're going to go and we're going to select Direct Access and VPN. And we're going to then click on Run the Remote Access Setup Wizard. We're going to say Deploy Direct Access Only. It's going to check our prerequisites. Looks like we're off to a good start. We're on our step 1 and we're going to select Configure. And on our configuration here, this is our deployment scenario. We want to select Deploy Full Direct Access for client computers, for client access and remote management. We're going to go ahead and we're going to leave that and say Next. On the groups that are going to have that, we're going to click Add, and we're going to type in domain computers, and then I don't even have to type the whole thing in. I can just click OK because that should have its only match. You know what? I'll click Check Names. Yep, that's good. We'll click OK. So now all domain computers should have access for direct access. We're going to click Next. And now we're on our Network Connectivity Assistant. On here, let's go ahead and we're just going to simply double click on a blank resource section. And we're going to change HTTP and we're going to select ping instead. And I'm going to type in our lun-dc1.adatum.com. And we'll click, you know what, I'm going to validate it. It was pinged successfully, just wanted to make sure. We'll click Add. We're back on our Connectivity Assistant. We can now click Finish. Our step 1 is configured. We can move on to step number 2. In step number 2, we're going to be selecting on our network topology page that we're behind an edge device with a single network adapter. So that's already there for us. We're going to put in the public name, that fully qualified domain name, our lun-svr2.adatum.com. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. Just want to double check our spelling, make sure everything's correct here. We click Next. Now, on the network adapters, we want to ensure that our lun-svr.adatum.com certificate is selected. So we said select the certificate used to authenticate, right? Well, that's there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to browse, and it says, okay, select the certificate. It was issued by our DC1. This came from our certification authority. So I'll say, okay, that's correct. Just wanted to verify that. We're going to click Next. And now on our authentication page, oh, looks like Windows Update. We've got an update that we'll have to put in later. We'll go ahead and we'll just say OK. Once we're done with the lab and I can end this video, I'll go ahead and take care of my Windows updates because we know it's important to do that. Now, on our authentication page, we're going to select Use Computer Certificates. We're going to browse, and there is our certificate from our DC1, right? We're going to click OK, and we're going to say Finish. That takes us to step number 3. On step number 3, our infrastructure server, we're going to click Configure, and we're going to answer our 9th question from my class. Where must the network location server be located? Well, does it tell us anything here? Well, take a look at the bottom of our dialog box here. The network location must be highly available to DirectAccess client computers inside the internal network and inaccessible to DirectAccess clients located on the internet. So there's your answer to question number 9. We're going to go ahead and we're going to say the network location server is deployed on the remote access server. We're going to click Browse, and here is that NLS datum.com certificate. We're going to select that. We're going to click OK, and now back on our network location server page, we're going to click Next. On our DNS, we're going to leave this just the way it is selected right here, and we're going to click Next. On the suffix search list, we're going to click Next. And on the management screen, we're going to double click this first line. And this is going to open the Add Management Server. In that, we're going to type in our domain controller, our lun-dc1.adatum.com. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to click OK. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to answer our 10th question. Which other servers would normally be defined as management servers? Well, we can use domain controllers. We could use a System Center Configuration Manager server. Our answer for question 10 of which other servers would normally be defined as management servers, it could be domain controllers, System Center Configuration servers, and this is for services that include Windows and antivirus updates. There's your answer. We'll go ahead, we're going to click Finish, and we're ready to move on to step number 4. It's a few steps to do this, right? We'll go ahead and we're going to click Configure, and on the DirectAccess application server setup page, all we're going to do is click Finish. Now, at the bottom, we'll select Finish, and we can see our remote access review. I'd like my students to go ahead and take a screenshot and paste this into step number 76. Yeah, there's been a lot of things we've done here. Once we've got that screenshot, in our remote access review, we're going to, under the GPO settings, we're going to click Change. Under the Client GPO, we're going to change the name of the GPO to New DirectAccess Client Settings. So I'm just going to append the name in front of that. And under the DirectAccess Server GPO, here again, we're also going to append New to the front end of that name. So it's going to create these two GPOs. We'll click OK. Then we're going to click Apply. Once these settings are applied, we'll finally click Close. And we'll have DirectAccess set up. It's going to take a little bit. Let's see what more detail shows us. We can see it going through its checklist of doing everything. And there we are. We have successfully configured DirectAccess. We can see our dashboard, our operations status. Any remote clients that would be connected would appear here. And finally, we also have reporting that we can configure accounting. That ends our exercise on DirectAccess. Let's move on to configuring split tunneling. In this exercise, you will enable split tunneling on the VPN connection that we created in our previous exercise. It's right there on your screen. By enabling split tunneling, when connected to a VPN, corporate traffic will go through the VPN connection and internet traffic will go out through the computer's local internet connection. If we don't have split tunneling, all traffic, if you do any browsing of the internet, downloading, whatever it might be, all traffic is moved through that VPN connection. This allows you to separate your local traffic from your corporate traffic. By default, when you connect it to a VPN using that previous configuration, all web browsing and network traffic goes through the default gateway on the remote network, unless you're communicating with local home computers. If you want to route your internet browsing through your home internet connection rather than going through the corporate network, you can disable the Use Default Gateway on Remote Network option. Disabling this option is called using a split tunnel. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get to the Network and Sharing Center. And in there, we're going to go to Change Adapter Settings. And on our VPN connection, we're going to right-click on that and go to Properties. In the Properties, we're going to select the Networking tab. Now, we're going to double-click on our IPv4. In our IPv4 properties, we're going to select Advanced. And here, what we're going to do is on these IP settings, we're going to deselect Use Default Gateway on Remote Network. This is how we do that split tunneling. I'd like my students to all take a screenshot and paste this into step number 8. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click OK. We're going to click OK, and we're going to finally click OK. Just like that, we've enabled split tunneling. It's that simple. Let's do our final exercise, and that's creating a Connection Manager Administration Kit, a CMAK. In this exercise, we'll create a CMAK installation program to configure a VPN connection for client computers. The Connection Manager Administration Kit is used to create and customize the profiles for CM and to distribute them to users. The profile, once completed, contains all the necessary settings for the user to connect, including the IP address of the VPN server. So on our server 2, we're going to jump back over to our server 2. I'm going to go ahead and close that DirectAccess Remote Access Management console. I'm going to also close our MMC. We're going to go to Tools, and right here we're going to go to Connection Manager Administration Kit. In our CMAK wizard, we'll click Next. On the Select the Target Operating System page, we're going to go ahead, we're going to simply say Next. On our Create or Modify a Connection Manager profile, we'll click Next because we're going to create a new one. And on the service name and file name, we're going to type in My VPN. We'll click Next. And we also want to type that in the file name. Sorry about that. So we're typing that in both service name and file name. We're going to go ahead, we're going to click Next. On the Specify a Realm Name, we're not going to make any changes there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. On the Merge Information from Other Profiles, This is the first one, so there's nothing to do. We're going to click next. Now, on our add support for VPN connections, we want to click to select phone book from this profile. With the always use the same VPN server highlighted, we're going to type in 172.16.0.250. We're going to go ahead, we'll click next. On the create or modify, we're going to see that my VPN tunnel is already highlighted. We're going to click edit. In the edit VPN entry box, we're going to click on the security tab and we're going to answer our 11th question. By default, when you set one of these up, by default, which authentication method is supported? Well, take a look at the bottom half of your screen there. Authentication methods. What is selected by default? Microsoft CHAP version 2. That's MS CHAP v2. That's your answer for question number 11. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the advanced button here under VPN strategy. On our advanced settings, understand that if you're required to use a pre-shared key, you need to select it here, and then after we roll back into our create modify on our next screen, we'd have the option of defining that pre-shared key. For now, we're going to simply click OK, but understand that's where you determine whether or not you're going to require that pre-shared key. Back on our edit VPN entry, we're going to click advanced. I've gone ahead and I've typed in a datum.com for our DNS suffix. That allows us to append that. We're going to go ahead, we're going to click OK. We're back on our create modify. I'm going to click next. This brings us to add a custom phone book. We're going to deselect the automatically download phone book updates. We're then going to click next. On our configured dial-up networking entries, we're going to click the next button. On the routing table updates, we're going to click next. On our proxy settings, we're going to click next. On our add custom actions page, we're going to click next. If we wanted to, we could define a custom bitmap, a custom logo. Well, we're not going to. We're going to simply click next. And here again, for our custom phone book, we could define a custom icon or a custom image there. We're not going to. We're going to simply click next. We're going to use the default icons that are available, but here again, for your business, you could define a custom icon. We're not going to. We're going to click next. We're going to use the default help file and click next. And on the display custom support information, well, we're not going to put anything in there, but you could. This would be the way that your users would be able to know how to connect to you. We're going to simply click next. On our display custom license agreement, we don't have a license agreement we're going to put in there, so we're going to click next. A lot of next. Here again, install additional files, we're just going to do next. On the build the connection manager profile and its installation program, we're ready to roll. We're going to click next. But what I want everyone to do now before we finish, we're going to answer our 12th question. And that is, where is our executable going to be stored? Well, you can see your string right there. C:/program file /CMAK /profile /Windows Vista and above. There's your path to where the executable will be stored. I'd like my students to all take a screenshot and paste this into step number 28. We're going to click Finish. Now, on our taskbar, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up File Explorer. We're going to go to this PC, we're going to go and we're going to drill in to where we stored that executable. And here we go into my VPN folder. There's our application. This is what we created. We're going to right click on it and we're going to say copy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to the shared software folder on my DC1. And doesn't look like I could have sworn I have a folder shared on there. Let's take a look. Maybe I did not do that on my DC1. I could have sworn that I had. Okay, no, that was on a previous set of labs. Hadn't done this yet, so let's go ahead. We're going to get that put in there right now. Software, enter. We're going to go to our properties. We're going to go to sharing, advanced sharing, share this folder, permissions. We're going to give everyone full access. We'll click OK, click OK. Keep in mind that normally you're not going to give full access. For our test lab, we do. And let's jump back over here, and I'm going to back out of that. Let's do it. There we are. There's our software folder. We're going to right click and we're going to paste. So now we have shared our VPN application so that our users have access to it. Let's go ahead, and now we're going to access our Windows 10 computer. And not user, we want to log in with our system account, or at least any domain user account would be acceptable. Someone who's got permissions to the domain. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back down to File Explorer, and guess where we're going to go? Yep, we're going to go to that London DC folder, the software folder. We're going to double click on that application. It says, hey, do you want to install it? I sure do. We're going to click next. Now, on the My VPN dialog box, we want to select all users. We're going to say yes. This will allow anyone that logs into this client computer to have access to the VPN connection. We'll click OK. And now we can see the VPN connection is configured. I'd like my students to all go ahead and take a screenshot and paste this into step number 41. If we see down here, here is that VPN dialog where you will provide your username, password, and the logon domain to get access to your VPN connection. This concludes Lab 9 in 70-741. I know this was a long lab. I thank you all for viewing it and taking the time out of your day to view my content. If you enjoy these labs, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as I always close out our videos, I'll see you in the next lab or lesson. Have a great one.